guys, and welcome back to the channel. For today's video we're going to be checking out the brand new Transformers Legacy Evolution Voyager class Maximal Leo Prime, and we're just going to get stuck straight into it. So here we have the box art, a really ferocious image of Leo Prime in his lion mode. Definitely be sure to keep that in mind for later on. Along the side of the box we get some nifty shots of Leo Convoy in robot mode, the scan me for tech specs here at the top, and as we come around to the back, some pretty cool looking product shots. This is actually a very ambitious Voyager. I just think the design as a whole is one that's going to be quite tricky to replicate in a Voyager, so here's hoping they did a good job. There we have the finalized lion mode, and as you guys can see, looking a little horrific. And then here along the side we get some of the Maximals as well as the Autobots and Junkions, and a little image there of what could potentially be the Nemesis and Breakdown. So let's crack this guy open and see whether or not Leo Prime was worth the wait. And here we have Maximal Leo Prime, also known as Leo Convoy, and this is actually a pretty nicely done figure. Like I said in the opening segment, I think a very ambitious character to approach in the main line, and just for a Voyager, because it's quite a clunky design and there's a lot going on. And trust me, when we get into transformation, one of the most complex mainline figures I think I've reviewed so far over here on YouTube. So as we jump into the details, there we have a very nicely done head sculpt. Sadly mine's got a little battle damage there to the eye, and from certain angles it kind of looks like he's staring into your soul, but a very nice, almost Optimus-y looking head design. Like the way this looks, completely painted front to back. We do get the massive lion head here on the shoulder and some nice armor here on this side. Liking the way that looks, decent paintwork, the Maximal insignia, and just overall a pretty nicely done version of the character, especially as we come around to the back. As you guys can see, not much kibble. I mean, of course he is just a little clunky due to the nature of the design. The character model always has had these kind of lion legs sticking off to the sides, and the backpack for a Voyager I honestly don't think looks too bad. Now, articulation, Leo Prime does have a ball joint here at the head. It's a little limited sadly, so we merely do just get a tiny bit of up and down. It can look left to right. Now, due to transformation you can extend the lion head forwards and backwards, which I think is fantastic. Once you extend it, it allows you to just get it out of the way, hinge it up and down so that it doesn't restrict the articulation that we get out of the shoulder. So these can hinge forwards and backwards. Nice rotation out of the bicep, 90 there at the elbow, nothing at the wrist at all due to the way it transforms, but we do get a pretty decent waist joint that is completely unhindered. The hips can kick forwards that far, back to that far, as well as out to the sides. A nice rotation here at the thigh, as well as a single jointed knee. And one thing worth bearing in mind is that this side's pretty stiff, but at least on my copy this one is super loose, which is quite unfortunate, and sadly it doesn't look as if I'm going to be able to tighten it up as it is on a pin joint. Due to transformation we do get a kind of calf swivel there and a really nice ankle pivot. I mean, as you guys can see, that can bend to a terrific degree. So overall very nicely done. I like the paint apps especially that we have here in the torso, and he also has the matrix of leadership, so we can open this section up, and as you guys can see, there we have it, looking pretty cool. I mean, a little dainty when in comparison to some of the previous Optimus matrices, but like the way that looks. We get some kind of cybernetic detailing here for the inside of this panel, which I thought looked nice, and this is blast effect compatible, so you can have this blasting down some of the enemy Predacons or villains that he faces off against in the show. Now, accessory wise, he actually comes with quite a few, so in addition to the two blasters which are already stowed away here in the lion main head, love the way these look, we also do get two smaller ones which can store away here in the backpack. Now you can peg these into the arms, or alternatively you can actually smack them into some of these slots here that we have along the side, and basically have this lion head fully maxed out, which looks fantastic, especially if you smack a couple of blast effects on there, so I really like that. But his Evo Fusion capability is that you take these sections here, pull these forwards, just like this. We can then take the lion legs, fold these out, and there are actually some hidden claws, so we can flip these out on both sides. Do the same here for this one. So there we have Maximal Leo Prime with his Evo Fusion capability, and I mean, it's pretty simple but rather effective. I mean, this is a look that we see him sport in the series, so I thought that was a pretty nice carryover. So definitely a very solid Voyager. Turned out a lot better than I was expecting. I mean, the design just in general was quite complicated, and even the masterpiece was a little tricky to transform, so to see this in a budget mainline release, I actually think they've done a really decent job. Looking forward to the Nemesis repaint that we're undoubtedly going to see in the future. Now, as we jump into a few comparisons, here we have the Kingdom Optimus Primal, and do you know what would be quite nice? If we could get a burning convoy redeco of this Kingdom Primal. I think that would look really sick, especially to compare alongside this guy, but as you guys can see, pretty decent scale. Here he is compared alongside the Earthrise leader class Optimus Prime, and a few other legacy Beast Wars inspired characters such as Tarantulas, and the leader class Transmetals 2 Megatron. So in all, a pretty nicely done Voyager. Can't fault it too much. Nice details, nice paint, and some pretty decent articulation, and not to mention quite a few cool gimmicks. Now, as we get down to transformation, like I alluded to in the opening segment of this video, one of the most complex Voyager figures I think I've reviewed in the past decade. I mean, this guy really was quite challenging for me, so we're going to kickstart things off by coming around here to the back. You're basically just going to want to take this section, hinge it out like that. We can now take the lion head, and like I said previously, is on an extendable joint, so pull this section here out. We can now take the shoulders, hinge these forwards just to get them out of the way. Take these sections, angle these here like so. They can actually rotate, and for those of you who don't like the look of the lion head, it is simply just on a mushroom peg, so I'm hoping some third-party companies can come out with a slightly more ferocious look for this character. But anyhow, what you'll then want to do is rotate this section here all the way around. Now we can come back here to the front, take these chest pieces and just pull them forwards and angle them out to the sides. We can then hinge them upwards. Now take this neck joint, disengage it, hinge it inwards, and take this chest piece, pull it forwards and rotate it all the way around, and then just simply collapse it back there into place. Now comes the most challenging aspect of the transformation, and it's all got to do with the arms. So you're going to want to make sure that this section here is pushed forwards. We can then take these pieces, detach those, just like that. You'll then want to take the wrist and actually disengage it, come around to the back and ensure that it is completely folded up. We can now take what will become the lion leg, rotate this here, just like so, and angle it out to the sides. We can bring this up and then rotate at the bicep, just like that. And what's going to happen is there is a tiny slot here that is going to peg into this tab. Now, 9 times out of 10, it will detach, but you're just going to roughly want to get it into that spot. So let's just line this up, give that there a good squeeze and snap it into place. Now we do get a tiny tab here that this peg's going to snap into, so rotate this section around, bring that down and click that there into place. Rinse and repeat here for the second side, so fold this section out, take the wrist, fold this here to the back, take the lion leg, flip this forward, rotate just like that and angle it out to the sides. We can now rotate at the bicep and bring this here all the way up. And like we did previously, line that tab up with that slot. So just snap that section in. We can now take the chest pieces and click those in. And to be honest, once you get that connection solidified, everything else should roughly tab into place. So take this here, snap that in there. Give this a good squeeze once more. We can then take these panels, click them into place on either side, and then for some finishing touches, take this piece and fold it down, and that is pretty much the front of the lion mode fully transformed. So quite a lot going on, definitely a little more involved than I was expecting. Now we're going to come here to the back of the legs. So you're going to want to take the heel spurs and just collapse those in on both sides. We can then rotate at what I want to say is the calf, so rotate that section around and then rotate here at the thigh. We can then take these hinge joints, and this actually locks in for robot mode, so you're going to want to detach that and bend it in until it actually snaps there into place. We can then pull that down, do the same here for this side, so disengage that tab until it actually snaps into place, bring this section down, take this piece, fold this out to reveal the lion tail, take this section, snap that in there. And for those wondering, you can definitely store away those 2 blasters that I showcased previously in the back in lion mode, but I'm going to leave them out as I want to showcase a few of the Evo Fusion gimmicks later on. There is also another tab here that's going to peg into this slot, so snap that in there. And for some finishing touches, take this panel and just click this into place, and there we have Leo Prime fully transformed up into his lion mode. So as we jump into the details, just from kind of a side perspective, this actually closes up quite cool. I mean, as you guys can see, there are not too many obvious robot mode pieces. As we come around to the back, we kind of get some cybernetic knees, but to be honest, not too bad at all. My biggest qualm with this would be the face sculpt. It is so bad. It literally looks like this guy's had all life just kind of sucked out of him, man. What on earth were they thinking? I actually think this could have maybe been improved had they added a few black details around the eyes, or perhaps had just given him pupils. this doesn't look nowhere near as ferocious as the Boxer, and I think is probably the only biggest letdown that the Lion mode has overall. But as you guys can see, we do get some jaw articulation. It can open and close, and I love the Lion mane. I mean, this thing looks fantastic. Very nice sculpt texture. We do get some nice metallic golden paint, so liking the way that looks overall. We do get a little bit of fist visible, but not too bad. Like the proportions here of the shoulders and the legs, some cool metallic gold toes, and the little lion tail at the back, some nice realistic texture detail over the top, which I think looks quite cool. And articulation isn't too limited, so in addition to the jaw articulation, we also do get a hinge joint which can go back and forth, the rotation that we saw in bot mode. Technically, if you disengaged the locking mechanism, you could also make this move, but then you're just going to begin untabbing the mane, etc. So I personally would leave that in there. We can also hinge these sections forwards and backwards slightly out to the sides and still utilize that ankle pivot and a little bit of wriggle here at the tail. So definitely quite a nice looking beast mode. Now, as we get stuck into the Evo Fusion gimmick, you can take this section like we showcased previously, flip it forwards and smack those two blasters in, and the same can also be said for these slots. We can also attach some of those other weapons, and you can definitely max him out like we saw in the series, which I thought was quite cool. And overall, definitely quite a fun Voyager figure. Now, as we jump into a few comparisons, first up we have him here alongside the Earthrise Optimus Prime, just so you guys gather a sense of how these roughly scale next to each other. Here he is next to the Kingdom Optimus Primal, transformed up into the Ape mode. Really like in particular how these two pair. The Legacy Deluxe Class Tarantulas. And just for fun, the enormous Transmetals 2 Beast Wars leader Megatron. So, as you guys can see, definitely dwarfed by this leader as you would expect, but still a pretty decently sized Voyager. And wrapping up on this review for the Transformers Legacy Evolution Voyager class Leo Prime. Overall, I think this is again a pretty nicely done Voyager for this Evolution series. I think in terms of bot mode, they did the best they could. The design just in general is one that I think is quite complex and definitely quite ambitious to approach for a mainline Voyager, and I think for the most part it paid off. Definitely does look how the character appeared in the original Japanese series. I think the articulation for the most part is there with the lack of some wrist rotation, and I do like how kind of the animal components can get out of the way, such as the shoulder pads, to really maximize some of those joints. He comes with a good array of accessories such as those 4 blasters, and I do like the Evo Fusion capability of flipping out those spikes from underneath the lion legs. That's quite a cool weapon. And let's just talk about transformation. I was not expecting it to be as involved as it is. First time round, when you're transforming that whole upper assembly, the head and the legs, oh my goodness, it's going to take you quite a while to get the hang of things, or at least it did for me. But I think it results in, again, a pretty decent looking beast mode, one that would have been massively improved upon had they given it a slightly more ferocious lion head. I mean, check out the box art, that looks fantastic, whereas here we're left with something which looks a little soulless, slightly devoid of life, and nowhere near as ferocious looking. So I am hoping that a third-party company can in the future come up with some kind of additional add-on kit, maybe a swap-out head altogether, or maybe when we do eventually get the Nemesis Leo repaint of this, they'll give him perhaps some paint apps, maybe just some pupils. But it's a nicely done Voyager. If you're a fan of the character design and don't own the masterpiece, I think you're going to like this one quite a bit. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts on Maximal Leo Prime, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.